Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the University of California, Riverside online Master of Science in Engineering webinar. Today we will take a deep dive into the admissions requirements for each of the 6 specializations. My name is Tracy, and I'll be facilitating today's presentation. Now, before we get started, I wanted to cover a few housekeeping items. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, go ahead and use the Q&A box along the left side of your console. We do have time reserved at the end of the webinar to answer any questions. So if you think of anything throughout the presentation, go ahead and type it in, but we won't answer it until the end. That way everyone can hear the answer. And then the other thing I want to mention is that this presentation is being recorded. So within the next day or so, you'll get an automatic email with a link to the presentation in case you missed it, or if you wanted to forward on to anybody else that may be interested in the information. So without further ado, I will turn this over to your Enrollment Advisors, Ted Kaake and David Chambers.
My name is Ted Kaake. I'm one of your Enrollment Advisors. David is the other one. And as your Enrollment Advisors, we're here to answer any questions that you have about the program. That's what we spend an awful lot of our time doing, is answering questions. But we also want to help you determine if the program is a good fit for you based on your career goals. If that's the case, and if you're a good fit for the program, we'll guide you through the admissions requirements for the program and through the application process. Now I want to turn things over to David. He's going to talk just a little bit about the University of California, Riverside.
Thank you, Ted. Before we get into the specifics of the admissions requirements, I just wanted to point out a few facts about the University of California, Riverside for those that may be new to the university. We are one of the 10 universities within the University of California school system. And what I really wanted to focus on specifically on this screen here is the U.S. News and World Report ranking that has UCR falling in the top 33% of engineering schools in the nation. It's with this ranking and this designation that we really pay a lot of attention to the caliber of students and applicants that we're reviewing, and this is why the admissions requirements is a very important focus. We do have a ranking with the program here that we're very proud of by U.S. News and World Report as being one of the best graduate schools. And we're excited to see new students coming into the program that fit and are going to do great things long term.
Now, before we dive into the admissions requirements, just want to do a quick review of the program. It is an online Master of Science in Engineering with a focus in one of 6 different areas. The program does require successful completion of 36 total credits. That's 9 courses, each course rated at 4 credits. 4 of those courses, or 16 credits, are professional core courses, or think of them in terms of professional development. They're going to help you in terms of leadership, management, strategy, innovation, systems engineering. Then you'll have 16 credits, or 4 courses, in your area of specialization. And then the final course, and I mean that only in terms of discussion, is a 4-hour course that's a capstone. In that course, you'll put together everything that you've been learning, and that's in lieu of a thesis or a comprehensive exam. And when it comes to admissions requirements, there are certain things that generally apply across all 6 of the areas of specialization. First, I want to make it clear you do not necessarily have to have an engineering degree. The literature, I think, says an engineering or related degree, and we'll talk about that. By that, we mean essentially a STEM degree. It should be in some area of science, technology, engineering, or math. But based on the specialization, there may be some other degrees, and we'll cover that in just a moment. You do need to have an appropriate grade point average in your upper division courses. And when we're talking about your upper division courses, I want to be clear, we're talking about junior and senior level courses. We do recognize that we didn't all have that same work ethic or interest in those general education courses at the freshman and sophomore level. You will need to have a minimum GRE score that is from the past 5 years. A passing score on the Fundamentals of Engineering exam or the professional engineer's exam will waive that GRE requirement. One of the things that I do want to highlight is that with some exceptions that we'll cover in each of these specializations, there is some flexibility. So if your GPA is a little bit low, but your GRE is high, that may offset things. If they're both a little close and you've got good, strong letters of recommendation, again, that may offset things. The best way for your own to understand regarding your individual situation would be to have a conversation with David or myself. David, why don't you tell us a little bit about the electrical engineering program?
Thank you, Ted. As we start to go into the specializations individually, you'll see there are some consistencies between the majority of them, but electrical engineering is one of those that kind of stands out from the crowd. This is a program that is going to carry the most stringent of the admissions requirements of the program. It requires a higher GPA, looking for a 3.2 as opposed to the 3.0 that you'll see in the majority of the other programs. And we're looking at least a 310 GRE, whereas a 300 is usually going to satisfy the requirements of the other programs. This also is going to require that applicants considering this program do come from an educational background revolving electrical engineering, physics, or mathematics. So it's very important with this program specifically, the electrical engineering, that we're coming in and we're striving to be as close to these requirements as possible, because while there is some flexibility in some of our other specializations, this is the one that Ted and I have historically seen to have the least. The next specialization I'm going to focus on here is our mechanical engineering. Again, we're going to have that 3.0 requirement, a 300 GRE, and like with all the specializations, having that FE or the PE will waive the requirement for the GRE. For the mechanical engineering degree, we are looking for preferred undergraduate degrees in mechanical engineering, physics, and mathematics.
When we get into bioengineering and some of the other specializations, this is where we do have a little bit more flexibility. We're looking for, specifically when it comes to bioengineering, an undergraduate degree in bioengineering, biology, or chemistry. We are looking for that 3.0 on a 4-point scale and the 300 GRE score. However, if your GPA is a 2.9 but your GRE is a 310, those two things may offset each other. And we'll cover how you can make sure that you've got the best application in just a moment. Again, a passing score on the FE or the PE will waive the GRE requirement for the bioengineering specialization. The next specialization is the environmental engineering systems, and that does focus on water. Again, you can see in the preferred undergraduate degrees biology and chemistry, but in addition to that, if your degree is in civil engineering, if it's in environmental science, or in ecology, those are also all good and acceptable degrees for this. Again, generally speaking, we're looking for the 3.0 on a 4-point scale and the 300 GRE, but we do have a little bit of flexibility here. And the flexibility applies more to the GPA than it does the GRE. And again, a passing score on the FE or the PE waives that GRE requirement. David?
Looking at the materials at the nanoscale specialization, this specialization does have a lot of tones that revolve around chemistry and chemical engineering. So it's no surprise to see that one of the preferred undergraduate degrees here is going to be in chemistry, along with physics, material science, and of course material engineering. Again, like the other programs, this does have the flexibility if you are deficient in one specific area for another area to help and boost you up in that. And just like the previous specializations, having that FE or the PE will waive the GRE requirement. Our final specialization is data science. This is going to have preferred undergraduate degrees in computer science, physics, statistics, and business. With this degree, one thing that Ted and I do like to highlight is there is a high level of math involved in the specialization. So regardless of the degrees, we're definitely going to pay attention to the levels of math that were completed to ensure that you're coming into the program well equipped to handle the levels of math that is going to be involved. And again, this is a 3.0 GPA with a 300 or better GRE score.
So if you meet the requirements, and if you're unsure, you want to have a conversation with David or I, we can take a look at your individual situation, and we'll give you our best assessment as to whether or not you'll be accepted based on your situation. But for the application package, we're looking for, obviously, an application that you fill out online. We do need official transcripts from all post-secondary educational institutions. That means even if you attended a community college for one semester and dropped out of the course midway through and didn't get any credit, we still need an official transcript from that school. Additionally, we will need your GRE scores or proof that you've passed the FE or the PE exams. You can have the GRE scores sent to us electronically, or when they're available to you about 4 days or so after taking your exam, you can take a screenshot and send it to me or to David. Additionally, we need 3 letters of recommendation. These letters, we prefer letters from academics. However, we recognize that depending on how long you've been out of school, you may not have contact with your professors. So we do welcome professional letters of recommendation. People who preferably have an advanced degree, though that's not necessarily required, but who can speak to your ability to do graduate level work. And you might think it's amusing that we put on here no relatives, but there are some people who do have relatives, in the workplace who can speak to their ability, who do hold advanced degrees, but a relative's kind of a red flag to the committee, so no relatives. You'll need 2 personal statements. You'll need a history statement. In that history statement, you want to discuss significant individuals or events that have influenced your choice of education and career. You also want to address any significant challenges you've faced and how you've overcome them. I bring that up because in addition to the 3 letters of recommendation and these 2 personal statements, especially the history statement, these can offset a low or borderline GPA. So we do look at the entire package, not just the GRE and the GPA. The statement of intent or purpose has to do with what you want to do with this degree. In other words, what are your career goals and how is this degree going to help you attain those? And then finally, we want a copy of your resume.
Great. Thank you, Ted and David. That ends our official presentation. But like I said, we will have time for a Q&A. I will go ahead and jump into our list now. It looks like we have a few questions about the GRE. Is the GRE required?
Generally speaking, the GRE is required. If you have passed the Fundamentals of Engineering or the Professional Engineering exam, you do not need to take the GRE. If you've taken the GRE and your score is over 5 years old, you'll need to take the GRE again.
Great. Now the next question is, I also have a BS in Applied Statistics. Does this help for admission requirements towards MSc Data Science program?
Yes, that definitely would be one of the degrees that would be a strong consideration for the program. Again, as mentioned during the presentation, we will definitely dive into any degrees for the data science just to take a look at the math that was completed. And the reason for that is a lot of computer science and a lot of technology-related degrees tend to not have as much math that we're looking for in this program. But by the degree's title, with it being an applied statistics degree, it sounds like a degree that will be a strong consideration for the program.
So it looks like we have several questions from the same person regarding last GPA and years of experience. Do we want to address that, or should we go ahead and have him reach out to one of you directly?
It's always a good idea if things are very, very specific to reach out to David or myself. about that. But generally speaking, work experience may play a part. I will generally tell people if you haven't taken the GRE and you really don't want to, unless you've got 15 to 20 years of relevant work experience in the field, take the GRE.
Okay. Yeah, and we have a few other questions about GRE. And then a question about the required hours for the program.
So the program is going to be broken down to the 36 credit hours for the entire degree. Unfortunately, the Master of Science in Engineering program does not allow for any transfer credits. So anyone coming into this program can expect to have the 36 credits, which includes the four credit courses in the engineering overview, the four credit classes are going to be in your specific specialization, and then the 4 credits towards your project capstone.
We have a couple questions kind of related to the PhD. So we'll just kind of answer that in whole. How does this degree relate to a PhD, if any?
This degree can lead you right into a PhD. Now, when it comes to a PhD, we can't necessarily speak to how well it's going to prepare you for a specific PhD program because admissions requirements will vary from program to program and from university to university. And we do not currently offer any of our PhD programs online here at the University of California, Riverside.
Another question. I already have a master's degree in EE from ASU. Do I need to get the GRE for the online degree?
That's an interesting question. A master's degree in EE, the MSEE, it's a Master of Science in Electrical Engineering. Here at the University of California, Riverside, we do not allow for duplication of degree. So you'd want to have a conversation with David or me so that we could determine how much duplication there is. If the degrees are substantially different, then you can apply, but yes, you'll still need the GRE.
We had a question about the capstone course. What do the 4 credits cover?
The 4 credits are going to be broken down. You're going to work with a faculty mentor, and it's going to be a project design based on your goals for the degree as well as your resources. The 4 credit course is actually sectioned out into 4 different 1 credit courses. So this is something that you're working on pretty much through the entire duration of your program. And again, this is going to have some of the tones for people that are looking to maybe take that next step towards a PhD, because a literature review will be a part of the process of completing the capstone. And the capstone is something that, we really like to, when we're having a conversation with potential students, really take a look at, what your goals are, what kind of resources you have, because that gives Ted and myself the opportunity to really speak to how this can be, really tailored to you as an individual and really helping you accomplish your next steps in your degree.
The next question is, are supplemental material considered in the application, i.e. Udemy and EDX professional courses?
That's going to depend on the nature of the supplemental material and the courses that were taken. Supplemental material almost always enhances an education. David and I have both received applications where students had papers that had been published, and we do include those in the application when we submit those to the committee. It does demonstrate that you're capable of doing, graduate level work, and it makes your application that much stronger.
Slightly different question about the GRE waiver. I took the FE exam under chemical engineering and passed, but I intend to pursue the mechanical engineering option. Is the GRE still waived?
That's a great question, and it kind of opens up another statement as well. As far as the question directly, it doesn't matter what specific focus your FE was in. By passing the exam, you will make yourself exempt to the GRE. And the question that brings up also is for the GRE specifically, we are only looking for you to take the general GRE for the program. You do not have to take a specialized exam.
We had another question about campus attendance, so getting some information about the campus program.
Okay, so in your question, I'm not sure if you're wanting to be able to attend some of the classes on campus or if you're thinking about applying to the campus program. So I'll address both of those. At this time, we do not allow online students to attend classes on campus, and we don't allow campus-based students to take the online courses, even though the courses will be identical. When it comes to information about the campus-based programs, David and I are not really equipped to answer those. We represent only the online program. And I will say this, the online program, which is the interdisciplinary program, focusing on professional development as well as your area of specialization, is only available online. If you're looking for a degree that focuses only on mechanical engineering or only on bioengineering, then you want to look at a campus-based program.
All right, that looks like that's all the questions that we have. If you have any other questions, feel free to type those in now.
There is one last question about the history statement. What do we mean by that? And I think I covered that, but let me just repeat what we've said. The history statement is where you get to talk about your personal history. So you want to cover in up to 3,000 words, no more, what led you to seek a career in engineering. Were there significant individuals who influenced you? Were there significant events in your life? And then you want to discuss any challenges that you've faced. So that's what we're talking about in the history. So what has happened up to this point in your life that has guided you toward this particular career, this particular education path, and, explain that to us. Just tell us about yourself and your background. That's what we're looking for.
Next question we have is, how does UCR's online MSc program compare to other online master's programs?
That's a great question, and of course, Ted and I we're not apprised to every school's inner workings. But the main thing I can speak to in regard to our program is the focus of having this really rooted in what's happening at the campus. Our online program does ensure that when you're taking a class online with us, that course is running at the campus. You're following the same syllabus, the same sequence as the campus-based students, and their faculty is your faculty. So there are some online programs that do tend to use adjunct faculty. They have programs that are separate from that that's going on at the campus. We try our hardest to ensure that the learning outcomes are the same regardless if you're sitting in that classroom or if you're sitting in your office.
And then we had a couple questions about tuition, and then also in-state tuition specifically.
Okay, so when it comes to tuition, because the program is an online program, there's no difference whether you're in-state or out-state. The tuition rate is the same. Tuition is $833 per credit hour, which for the 36 hours in the program comes out to $29,988. The good news is you don't have to write a check for $30,000 right up front. We will bill you each quarter based on the number of credits for which you are scheduled. In addition to the tuition, you want to keep in mind that there is an application fee. It's $80 for domestic students, $100 for international students, and you'll average about $250 per course for textbooks and proctoring fees.
I did get a request to show the mechanical engineering slide again, so I'll pull that up while we answer this question. Does acceptance into the online program permit access to the campus library?
That's a really great question, especially considering that you are looking at potentially being an online degree-seeking student. And the answer to that is students are able to contact student support and get an ID to the University of California, Riverside. For those students that choose to get an ID to the school, you are able to use that ID to access campus-based resources, including the library.
So I think we have that mechanical engineering slide back up. And then we have a question about scholarship options in the program. At this time, there are no scholarships available for the online Master of Science in Engineering. However, we do participate in the Federal Student Loan Program, and those are available for those who qualify. I'll give my standard disclaimer. Neither David nor I are financial aid experts. You'd want to fill out a FAFSA and then discuss financial aid with the financial aid department.
We had a question about the number of classes that you're taking each quarter, and then we'll just roll that into the discussion of hours, expected hours of study per week.
That's a great question. The program is designed with the potential of completing it in as little as 4 consecutive quarters. Now, that is going to be contingent on, of course, course availability, because as I mentioned before, the courses you take online do align with what's running at the campus. So the typical path for that would have you taking one of the 4 credits towards the core engineering portion of the degree, one of the 4 credits towards the specialization, and then one of those 4 credits towards the capstone. So essentially you're looking at taking a 9 credit hour per quarter load. Now, of course, not everybody has the capacity for dedicating the time for about a 30-hour-a-week commitment at that rate. And with that, we do have options for the select that need to take this at maybe a little bit stretched out pace. And that's something that Ted and I can work out with you on a conversation individually.
We had a question about on the final diploma, does it indicate that it's an online degree?
That's an excellent question, one that David and I hear often. And I think that's probably generated by the fact that there are some online schools out there that now people view some degrees with a little bit of suspicion if they came from an online school. The good news is, in addition to the fact that the University of California, Riverside is a very recognized and reputable institution, especially when it comes to engineering, your diploma will not say online. It will say that you have been conferred the degree of Master of Science in Engineering, and it will mention your area of specialization.
The next question we had is, my last differential equation class was 20 years ago. Should I be concerned with the math requirements?
Oddly enough, this is not a rare question. We speak with Ted and I, individuals that have been in the field for 10, 15, 20 years. So there are a lot of things that, as part of your academic curriculum towards becoming an engineer, that you may or may not use on a daily basis. What I usually speak to in regard to anyone concerned with a math deficiency is to take advantage of some of the online resources. Before we even get into paying for a structured class at a university, I would say, take an opportunity to utilize some of the structured online courses to see, where you are with your math skills, if this is something that, you could brush up with an online course, and kind of do a self-assessment of where you are. Of course, if you feel that, doing that route, you could still benefit from a little bit more of a structured education, at that point, the conversation would be, probably in your best interest to maybe take a math course before you jump into your master's program. But again, like most things, that's definitely something that Ted and I, this is what we spend our days doing, is really, taking a look at individuals, your specific situation, and finding out, one, if this is a good fit, and if not, what can we do to make it a good fit for you.
All right, I think that's all the questions we have. We did have a question about availability right after the webinar to chat. I think the best thing to do would be to, okay, perfect. You know what, Ted said he would go ahead and give you a call. So you can speak to him, ask him any other questions. And then in general, we will wrap up now, but we really do appreciate your time. We know it's valuable, but we hope that this has helped you really learn about the specifics of the program, and then with the Q&A session, which was really lively and informative, gave you a little bit more insight into questions other potential students have. If you have any other questions, please do reach out to Ted and David directly. As you can tell, they're really knowledgeable about the program, and they are available to speak to you about your specific qualifications. And then, again, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to them directly. Thank you so much for your time.